product, you can't give us an advisory. So that's the way the world is changing. Retail has changed. Supply chain is changing. Things like mobile technology have become past. Now people are talking about hardware going away. You will have software, you will have projectors. You must have seen some YouTube videos where you can pretty much project the keyboard or the screen on any surface and work out of it. I'm sure Sandeep will know more about it in the space of technology. But that's what is happening. So what does HR do in that case? In our company, where we have about 340,000 people globally, right, larger than many smaller countries, if you look at the workforce, we are looking at this and saying, how can we eliminate what we call as the human middleware? Right? Today, what do recruiters do? They take resumes, they look at job descriptions and requirements, and they match demand versus supply, essentially. Computers have started doing that. They do millions of resumes in seconds. We have a function in our organization called talent supply chain, who are schedulers. So there are projects available and there's supply available, right? So they're almost like supply chain, just in the human and talent space, who say there is a demand, there is this client, these are the skills, Java required, we have 5 people available. In 5 years, I think 5 years might be too long, but in 5 years, we will probably have technology which will scour our database across the world, find out the 40 people, which location, are they free of project or not, and throw up the data to a line manager directly within seconds, 4 to 5 seconds at most. What do schedulers do then? And I'm just talking about the HR landscape. This is happening in marketing. This is happening in sales. So therefore, while it's very enthusing, it's also scary. And HR needs to think about the overall responsibility. I think one thing that comes to my mind is we need to move out of our maintenance mindset and become coaches, trainers, people who can look at future skills. That's why I said look into the future and say, what can I prepare the society, my organization for in the future? Because otherwise, if there's social unrest, all this will go to a big zero. Because this is happening. It happened during the computerization age, right? We remember unions going out and saying, computers are never going to happen.
Yeah.
5 years from after that, they were all learning computers sitting somewhere in the corner. So we can't stop change. The best thing is to adopt it. And for HR to think about is how can I upskill my workforce to actually be prepared for the future, not react to what has already happened in the past.
Well, Dipayan, thank you so much. But that's the reason I called it a crossroad. Before Jacob answers, I've got a corollary question. Though we're talking about technology disrupting, becoming, taking over a lot of the human effort and work, my corollary question is, with so much of technology happening, there's a personal experience that employee used to have, whether it's onboarding time, training time, any touch point of employee with the HR or with the organization. Because of technology, a lot of it is getting missed out. And I'm just going back to, and I work with a lot of personal examples. Even today at home, 6 of us live at home, right? We've got a WhatsApp group of a family, right? And we actually WhatsApp each other rather than in a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom house walking to the child's bedroom and saying, what are you doing? We're actually WhatsApping, and it's happening in my house, I know that, right? My son is sitting in his room watching one of those English serials on his computer, and he WhatsApp, what's up for dinner? He's sitting in 1 room, 2 rooms away, what's up for dinner, right? So because of technology, what is happening is the distance is becoming much larger. Same with organizations. Because of technology, the distance between HR and employees are becoming much larger. Therefore, the employee experience of the touch and feel and the emotions that employee needs. And there's a beautiful research by London School of Business which talks about the need of community in employees and all of us. So that is somewhere getting trampled. So how do you think we, as HR people, we can react to that? And
I'll just take 30 seconds and pass on to the others. I think 2 things are happening. One is that I think that's a reality. And I think the millennials think about society differently than we think about it. Emotions will still be important. We are human beings. But technology is learning emotion. Technology literally is learning emotion. We are piloting, it's a test case, we are piloting an interview tool where the tool actually while you are on video camera interviewing, it actually captures the way you are looking at it, the way you're thinking, your emotions. It actually looks at all of that. So it's 10 years ahead, 15 years ahead, but not impossible. But having said that, I think I'm a strong believer that technology will only enable it, provided you have what is called a human-centered design. All of us know Microsoft Excel, right? Excel used to be a difficult thing to learn. Today, if you go to Excel, it's much more intuitive. A Google search is much more intuitive. You put in a common man's language and it throws up results. Sounds very interesting, but at the back end of it, Google has done enormous research to actually put in stuff that common people talk about and throw up relevant results. So we are actually seeing technology enabling communities because global workforce is going to stay. We can't undo it. If that's the case, why not embrace technology and say, how can it build a community? How can you use Skype to build a community? Right? We are virtually coming together more than before. So I think between high human touch point, which is not probably as possible as earlier, versus not having a human touch point, technology is slowly going to the space of artificial intelligence and other stuff where it will actually help you. Having said that, the design of our tools and technologies have to be smart. What Samsung is working on, what Apple is working on, is actually futuristic stuff on saying, how can it be human-centered design? How can a person actually feel this is an extension of myself rather than I having to learn a tool? In fact, there's some data which says a youngster, 6, 7-year-old, I have a daughter who's 8, 6, 7-year-old kid takes about 30 seconds to 60 seconds to fire up an Apple phone, right? You remember those good days when we had the phones which we got, we went through the manual, we figured out how to set up, then we transferred contacts, changed one SIM to another, that's all gone. So if a kid who's 8 and who's a millennial can do that in 30 seconds, if we don't change our mindset, we'll still be thinking about it takes about 5 minutes to do that job. The answer is no.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is, it's about HR people need to learn smart way of using technology. Right, Dipayan?
Yes, absolutely.
Jacob?
See, let's look at how technology has really changed over the last couple of years. And let's understand, from an organizational perspective, what do organizations really need to look at how this technology will help them. A couple of years back when all companies were automating, I think the first thing that they did was to put the leave system up as an automated system. That is the first thing that they started with. And a couple of people who thought at that time this is really going to help, the questions they asked was, normally when my team goes on leave, they'll come and ask me, sir, can I go on leave, or X, can I go on leave? I have this wedding, or I have this. And the manager also asks, out of concern, I hope everything is okay. And they said, when you have this automated leave system, the dialogue just goes off. He just applies personal, no reason, I want leave for 1 day, or I want leave for a week, or whatever it is. That was something which happened. And then slowly people got over it, and then you started automating. People have, figured various HR management systems which are used in the organization. But the difficulty or the challenge is the organization has to really think what it wants that technology for. Is it just to connect and put people's information on it, and then and then you have some sort of a connect to your intranet and you're able to share information? No. I think what you really need to think about is, how can I use the data there for decision making? I think, and how can I connect communities of people in my organization closer together? I think this is the ideal scenario of what technology should enable in the organization. Whether it's an HRMS or whether it's an HRMS module that you have on talent integration, as Dipayan said, where I need to find out I have this project, these are the 5 people available. Yes, that's one aspect of looking at IT for decision making on people. And the biggest challenge that you have within an automated system in HR is using HR for talent management decisions, using the technology as an enabler. So I think companies need to look at what is the end result that they want to use it for. It's like social media. There's no organization today which doesn't allow Facebook and allow you to use it today with certain responsible autonomy provided to you. So similarly, I think the larger question which organizations really need to think about is, what is it that I need this technology to do for me? How can this technology get communities closer, and how can I use it for real-time data decision making? I think if you're able to think on these lines, I think technology definitely becomes an enabler. Where companies are grappling on is in between, when the thought process is not understanding what you really want to make out of it and what is the end result that you want of it. That's where you have issues.
Thank you. I move to my next question in the interest of time. The question that every HR person or every business owner is grappling with about talent supply today in the market. You know, we know with the increased competition for talent all the time, whether it's the e-commerce competition or even in the same industry competition, there is increased competition. Talent is in short supply. I mean, you have a lot of workforce. We talk about India being the youngest workforce, a lot of workforce available, but we're talking about talent here, not talking about hands and legs, we're talking about talent. So with the increased competition for talent that we all are facing all the time, particularly leadership talent, workforce planning has emerged as a crucial factor. How do we really plan next year, next 2 years, 3 years? As the businesses unfold their strategy, or how does the HR really plan the talent from a talent perspective? It's not just about having the manpower, it's about having the right talent. Right? So industry boundaries are disappearing and the times are shortening because, you know, gone are the days where you said, okay, I'll wait for 6 months and hire people. Now you need people here and now. And a lot of companies have started now looking at, and the fact that in the last 6 months you heard a lot of companies who HR had resigned and they promoted somebody internally, right? Even non-business people as HR people. You know, instead of relying on external, you also start looking at internal search for talent. In that scenario where talent supply is a challenge, competition issue, talent issue, right? My question to the panelists is, how can HR really help the organization make do with less and grow with shrinking resources? Jacob or Kaushik?
See, a couple of things which are really changing in the talent landscape. You know, one thing which is really coming out, which companies are doing today, when I say progressive, mature organizations, when they spot good talent, irrespective of whether the talent is required at that point of time in the organization or not, they take that talent. They call this as talent right-sighting. Basically, they're saying that I found good talent, I know that this talent would be helpful for me, and this is what I would like to do.
What is the word you use, Jacob?
Talent right-sighting. Right-sighting.
Right-sighting, yeah. Oh, that's a nice
talent right-sighting.
Right-sighting.
The other thing, what good organizations are doing is that they ensure that over the next 2 to 3 years, if I have about, say, 20 people 20 positions that are coming up, I ensure that leaders in the organization groom at least 10% of that to take on internal positions. No more that, you know, my yardstick of measure as a leader is based on the number of leaders or number of people that I personally groom to take on positions in the organization. These are two things which are changing the facade of how talent is looked at in organizations. More importantly than that, I think, I mean, there's a lot of talk around predictive analytics, data analytics on talent, trying to see who fits in, etc. That's algorithm. You know, Ram Charan clearly says that, you know, build algorithm into your business to understand that how do you shock-proof your organization. So I think these are the three things which are going to be the future of talent, and the rest, everything is a given. Don't say that, you know, things like I send my managers all for 7 days of training program, the brighter ones go to Harvard, I send this to IIMs, a few of them, all those are a passive. That's a given. That doesn't differentiate any organization today. What really differentiates is that 3 years down the line, are you sure that you have somebody to fill that role? And what are you doing to fill that role? Whether it's internal grooming, whether it's talent right-sighting, or whether it's predictive analysis.
Okay. Kaushik, from JLL perspective, and I know your industry, which is always short of talent.
Yeah, so couple of things. I think, you know, when you look at future talent, you really need to look at what is it that the future is looking at, which is the millennials. You know, we talk about work-life balance and, you know, various aspects which are important to retain talent, you need to engage people the right way. But what millennials are actually looking at today is probably, you know, work and life should blend. And, you know, many of the technology platforms that we spoke about, it was more of how do we control some of the aspects of employees' life rather than connecting, you know, people, which Jacob, you know, mentioned. Now, in that scenario, when we, you know, look at talent, how do we engage them? You know, because, you know, there has to be ways and means by which, and there are, you know, various processes which is available. And when you talk of talent, the first thing that really comes into our mind is the talent management system. You know, one of the HR technology industry which has really grown is the LMS industry. You know, that's something which has grown by 21% as a 2.5 billion industry. And what has happened is, I don't know if you know, some of you are aware of, in many large organizations, they now have a pop-up system For example, in a Samsung kind of organization, you have sales guys, you have factory workers, you have applications which is available, and it pops up when you find that the guy is free and tells you that, now for your talent management purpose, you need to go through XYZ module. Now, it is a way of ensuring that he actually, goes through his development agenda. The other way of looking at it is that employee going to look at it as an intrusion to his life, where, at any given point of time, he's free, he is not doing anything, the organization actually knows about it and tells him in some way that, hey, this is not the right time, you should be taking rest, it's time for you to develop yourself. So you need to really understand, how there's a very thin line, and today's generation is looking at, they're coming to play, and as they play, they don't mind working. That's the future generation that we are talking of, and that's the workforce that we need to create. And one more quick thing, I think we need to really look at the various financial modeling which is available, which gives you an, a predictable profit of an organization, the financial, health of an organization. But is there any predictable model which is available, which gives an idea in terms of how the workforce is going to look like in an organization? I really don't know of many.
Very interesting.
So, is there enough work happening in that direction? I think that's the question we need to really ask ourselves.
Right. Well, thank you very much. That's good. Move over to the next question, if that's okay, Divine. Yeah. Okay. So we also know that talent is totally mobile today. Since we talk about global world, people move anywhere, any part of the world, available online. Probably Apple has more employees, if I may say, or indirect employees, people who are developing apps, than they have directly employed by them. Right? They're probably, a few lakhs of, people who are working on Apple indirectly developing apps for them. So we're talking about that kind of mobility. And also we know most of HR people grapple with, or people don't stay for more than a year or two and they move on. Right? And particularly managers like us who are on this side of the table, or the hall, the Gen X managers, who you work with the company for 4, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, right? And then you move, and you see today's youngsters in 1 year and 2 years, they're moving on, mobility. And you say, well, they're not loyal, they are useless, they're not engaged. Well, people, we got to come face to face with the fact that that's a fact. People will move in a year or 2 years, right? Though I must share a very interesting research that we were doing about 2 years back, and one of the larger reasons why people move, and we were doing research on the first year attrition, really, right? Why people quit in the first year. We did about across 18 industries, minus the BPO and insurance sector, because attrition there is for different reasons. So when we did the research, the number one reason that came up as to why people quit, by the way, the first year attrition was as high as 23%. This is, I'm talking about 2013 when we did the research. The number one reason that why people quit in the first year. Any guesses? Cost? Oh, your boss. So boss. Well, not among the top 5, but not number one. Number one reason why people quit in the first year. Any guesses? Different environment? Cultural? Not a challenging job. Okay, what else? Anybody else? Work culture, okay. What? Job satisfaction, okay? Okay, I hear a lot of things, so cut the long story short. Here it is. 73% people said, and you can probably put the research at our HRNXC site, 73% people said, the reason I quit in the first year, and these are people between 1 year of experience and 10 years of experience. We're looking at lateral hires, 1 year and 10 years experience. They said, the reason I quit is because I did not know how my job fits in with the overall vision of the company. Wow, this is your Gen Y. They want to know why I'm here, how my job connects to the overall vision, whatever I'm doing. It doesn't matter whether I'm an analyst, I'm a sales executive, or I'm an accountant, whatever role I'm doing. How does it fit in with the overall global picture? That's your Gen Y people, or that's your millennial. They want to know why I exist in this role, and therefore how do I contribute, and therefore what's in it for me. Right? The number 2 reason was the manager, by the way. Yeah. So if that is the employee we're talking about, they want to know. Right? So there is a mobility. They will quit. The fact of the matter is that people are quitting in 1 or 2 years. You can't plan for 5 years. You plan for 2 years. Right? That's good enough. The concept of job has changed. I'm not reading all of that. And companies now know that they have to move beyond the succession planning that we used to do, 10, 15 years back, to about facilitated, that's a new concept I learned a few days back, facilitated talent mobility. Man, All kind of crazy concepts are coming by, right? One of the Harvard School article talks about it, a facilitated talent mobility. Well, if this is what we're talking about, talent mobility, the loyalty of definition has changed from being loyal to the companies to loyal to self, and which is fine. We're all selfish, and we got to be loyal to ourselves. Therefore, my question to the panelists, and maybe Jacob, I'll start with you. How does HR deal with this talent mobility? I don't know if you have this issue or any other company which have this major issue. How do you deal with this talent mobility?
I can give you a very practical example of what happens within our organization. You know, Apollo has about 65 hospitals at various places across the globe. And there are some hospitals that you start in tier 2, tier 3 cities. Like we have a hospital in a city called Bilaspur, which is in Chhattisgarh. We also have hospitals in and around the city of Chennai, in cities like Madurai, Karur, Karaikudi. Every year we go to the UK to recruit doctors who want to come back to India from the NHS system. And these doctors really want to come back to India because of various reasons. They feel that coming back here will be much better for their prospects. But challenges that we have in terms of talent mobility, things like what's the quality of life that we will have in Bilaspur? Will you be able to provide employment for my spouse? What are the kind of schools that my children can go to in cities like Bilaspur when I have them studying in UK? What is my career growth within that hospital? These are the kind of things that they ask us. Obviously challenges. Do we have answers for all these questions? Not necessarily. Yeah. So when you look at talent mobility, you're faced with many organizations, even I would say companies which are venturing into global markets such as Africa, you know, such as we also have some of our concerns in Middle East and Africa, where these kind of things are posed to us. You know, we send people to Africa and they say, can we come back? Do I get a career in the corporate world? I will go there, provided 3 years, hence I come back and I get to run operations of a hospital. So these are the kind of challenges that we have. And the only way that we can really get talent to go to these hospitals is that we have to move about 50% of the workforce required in that hospital from an existing hospital. We have to give them, you know, one is obviously your allowances, your welfare, etc. and some kind of a different career path in the new hospital. So at least 50% you're able to fill with existing talent by moving them from one hospital. The other newer talent, yes, some of them come back and say, you work here for 2 years, we'll try and move you to Chennai, or we'll try and move you to Hyderabad or Delhi or Mumbai, which is coming up in the next 6 months. So these are the kind of practical challenges that we have. We have to work around it. Can we provide all spouses of all those who want to work in Bilaspur with jobs? Not necessarily. So we create some kind of community engagement programs. We try and create some other ways and means by which where they can keep themselves occupied, and where the change, they're able to fathom the change, accept it, and we tell them reality. It's not going to be like UK. These are the realities of working in places like Karur, Karaikudi, Bilaspur, etc. But continuous challenges, when you talk about talent mobility, we don't have all the answers practically, but we try to work around them and try to provide opportunities by either, you know, better opportunities in terms of moving up the career lattice, or in terms of more responsibilities, relooking at the roles that they can do. Things like that have helped in terms of talent mobility.
Yeah. Sandeep, you're a new age company, electronics, technology, mobility company. From your perspective, and you have obviously a lot of people who are educated and they want to move on. So how do you grapple with this kind of a challenge?
Yeah, Ashish, we promote talent mobility in a very big way.
Okay.
We are very pro talent mobility because that's how we get those critical skills and talent. And so every quarter we do assessment of the talent which is mobile, which is required, and this is done on a regional level in Southwest Asia and also at our global headquarters. So we look at basically our internal needs also, as to if we suppose send this talent abroad and we get them trained on some certain critical skills, and then what is that they're going to contribute when they come back to the parent country and contribute to the business. So that is one big thing. Also, now India is a trendsetter as far as Samsung Global is concerned, and we do a lot of best practices out here. So Indian talent is regarded very highly across the globe, and Indian talent is invited at our headquarters level to spread those best practices which we do here in India. So Indian talent is very highly regarded. And another thing which we do is we also do an assessment of our potential risk people who are in the high, medium and low every quarter, which is done. And that's how we plan the backup of people, those people who are, say, high risk people who may leave the organization, which may impact the business. So we prepare the backups and succession planning.
Fantastic. I really like that. So you're saying that we actually prepare for mobility because that's also probably a way of engaging them.
And also we invite a lot of expatriates from across the globe. And I mean, there is a person in my team who's working, who spent Indians 12 years in Korea in IT and now working in HR. So that's how we invite talent also.
I don't know if you're in Delhi, that's happening. I come from Bombay. When I started my first job, I used to stay in Borivali and come to all the way to Nariman Point and work. Today when we hire people, they say, well, where's your office? I say, Nandheri. No, but I stay in Thane, it's too far for me, I can't really come. So people don't want to travel for more than 45 minutes, an hour or so, whether it's work life or whatever inconvenient. So that's also affecting talent mobility in some fashion. Very interesting. So that gets me to the new one. Since you talked about mobility and forced mobility, actually we plan for mobility that actually also engages people in some way. This is one subject that every HR person is really gung-ho about, which is about engagement. So let me just build a quick perspective on engagement. London School of Business and Blessing White, they did a research in 2013. About 30,000 respondents, all kinds of people across the world and so on and so forth. And the focus was, the first one I'm focusing on, what are the characteristics of new age professionals? And the two professors who were part of the research called Rob Goffey and Gareth Jones, they wrote a book called Clever. I don't know how many of you have seen this book called Clever, recent book 2013. This talks about the clever generation of today and tomorrow. Right? And it says, the title says, leading your smartest, most creative people. Right, from HR perspective. So of course, it's a leadership book, but it talks about clever. So if this is, we are talking about clever generation of today, leading them or managing them from HR perspective, we need to understand what really engages them. What is the engagement from their perspective, right? So in the research that they did, there were several reasons what are the needs of these clever people. And I know the font is too small, so I actually summarized some of the top 5-6 reasons. It starts like, wants to be recognized for their professional accomplishment, and so on and so forth. So I can send this research to you if anybody is interested. But I picked up top 6 needs of today's clever generation. We're talking about today, these are Gen Y to Gen Millennium. The same will continue next 5 years. That's what the research says. So these are the top 6 needs that really engage, things that really engages the clever generation of today and tomorrow. They need achievement, pat on the back regularly. They need autonomy, don't be over my shoulder, let me be. They need collegial support, they want colleagues to support, they would love to share, and therefore the internet world, everything is on Facebook. Right? They want to keep current. We're talking about the new generation, they want to, everything today, new technology, new processes, they want to keep current. They want to participate in mission and goal. I just told you about our research that we did. They want to know how my job relates to the overall vision, and they want a professional identification. Now very interesting. As we grew up, and I'm talking about Gen X managers here, right, and baby boomers, for me, the title from a deputy manager HR to a manager HR to a senior manager HR to a GM HR was very critical. The new gen cares a damn about it. They don't want the title. What they care about is professional identification. They need to be known as specialists, something they're good at. That's what they want. Right? Title really doesn't matter to them because they can start their own company and write director tomorrow. So that doesn't really matter. Right? So these are 6 needs that the research said that this is what engages the people of today, the clever generation of today. They also, there are two authors called Buck Blessing and Todd White. They built an engagement model. I don't know if some of you have seen that. I did present it at a couple of forums in the last couple of years. Right? Now, interestingly, these two gentlemen, one was a psychologist. They used to work for Ford Motor Company in 1970s. They quit Ford Motor. One was an engineer and one was a psychologist. Both of them created an engagement model. So I'll take just 2 minutes to present that, and then we talk about engagement from our perspective.